Welcome to the Jeff Miller Show. Each week, Jeff Miller of the Jeff Miller Consulting Alliance talks with Podcast Village host Charlie Burney about trends in business, consulting, and much more. The Consulting Alliance offers strategic counsel and tactical support to businesses, corporations, and nonprofit organizations in the Washington, D.C. area and beyond.
Well, hey, Jeff Miller, how are you today?
I'm good, Charlie. How you doing?
Nice to have you back at the Podcast Village Intergalactic Studios for Jeff Miller number 9, I believe it is. We're almost up to double digits. My daughter would be very proud. She's right behind you. She'll be up to episode 9. So, Jeff, today we're going to talk a little bit about business, and I've been sort of wanting to talk just about you and maybe a little bit about some of your website and any stories that might bring up, because we've been talking so much about community building, and that's something that is part of you and your business. But to talk a little bit about business and the Jeff Miller Consulting Alliance. And I know we touched on this in our very first episode, but again, tell me how you started this version of your career and sort of give us the 30 seconds on the Jeff Miller Consulting Alliance, because I know you did some work prior to that, but let's just talk about JMCA.
Sure. So at a certain point, it became apparent to me that I really wanted to broaden the base of the business and deal with some of the nonprofits and go after some executive coaching, and had over the years developed a series of skill sets that allowed me to do that. Right. And we've been up and running with the Consulting Alliance since September of 14.
Okay.
And of course, I've been in the coaching business since 2003. Yeah. So it's been a lot of fun.
So if anybody's interested, that's jmconsultingalliance.com, and I try to remember to put it in the show notes, and I hope it's there, and I'll double check. But if you're wanting to check it out, it's jmconsultingalliance.com. So that's where the home base is, and where you can find the materials about what Jeff's talking about, whether it's executive coaching or team coaching or community building,
sales training, workshops. I just love working with people who are looking to take their business and themselves to the next level. And that's what the Consulting Alliance allows me to do. It's to work with people who, they're in a great place and they want to be in even a greater place.
Sure.
So
that's perfect. And when you started out with your own particular brand, what were some of because you were making a transition, right? So what were some of the challenges? You got your website running, and I like the website, the moving video. I'm a tech guy, so I like talking about the way you've embedded certain things in here. It's very elegant. But how do you go about building a business consulting brand like that when you start out? That's one I haven't thought about.
Well, the bottleneck was me.
The bottleneck was you. Okay. So that's a great slogan.
So what I decided to do is I enlisted both of our daughters. Our older daughter had worked in public relations, marketing, and communications since she had graduated from the University of Maryland 10 years ago. And our younger daughter is currently working on our art therapy master's and working in early childhood child care education. Gave them very specific assignments. I knew that the largest obstacle for me was going to be that website.
Okay.
And so what I did was found a graphic designer, introduced her to our older daughter, and said, "Here, this is your project.
Oh, really?
You take it, you run with it. Come to me when you need a significant decision, or you need a check signed."
Right.
And she did an amazing job working with the consultant, keeping me out of it.
But trying to keep it aligned with what she knew was your goal.
Very much so.
It's an interesting way to work with a partner. Yeah.
Keeping it aligned with, what my culture is, what's important to me in the business. And she was able to communicate that with the graphic designer, who I think did a great job.
I love your website. I'm not in love with ours yet, but I love your website. And not that my 15-year-olds can do this, but they've both... So I may have to come to you for personal advice, because they've both said, well, we might like to work with you this summer, Dad, which I think would be really, really exciting. But I may need some advice. So.
Well, happy to sit down with you. I can tell you that having worked with both girls in the business on a certain level was one of the more fulfilling and meaningful things that I've done, because, what you see is, they're your kids, so they're always your kids. And then you see them dealing
with stuff.
Like real stuff.
Yeah.
And did an amazing job, much better than I ever could have done.
Right.
and our younger daughter brings a different skill set, and so it's just it's great sitting back and watching the kids go at it and make a success at it.
You suppose there's any chance we can get the girls in someday?
That'd be great. We can work on that.
Do a 4-microphone show. I think that would be great. Bring the girls in.
They could tell
get
all
them to tell some dad stories.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Well, you already knew what I had in mind there. So what kind of feedback do you get from your clients then? Do people talk to you about your website and ever say, "Hey, I found you online through your website"? How do you? I mean, this is sort of your anchor to windward, if you will. If you've got to find out about Jeff, I found it very easily. Googling Jeff Miller Consulting. So it's very findable from that sense. But how, what happens next? You've got About Us, What We Do, Clientele, Testimonials, Media, which is where if you click on there, you can find some of our content, but also your regular articles and comments about some of your extra work.
So what I've always found about my website is the page that's visited most often and stayed on most often are my testimonials. And I've got, I don't know, probably 20 to 30,
there's a lot.
20 to 30 client testimonials on there. And, part of the strategies when I'm working with my clients and talking about, well, how do you take a lead and how do you convert them into a client or a customer? So testimonials is probably the second or third most important strategy that you can employ. So I would recommend to you, as I do with other folks, is if you've got a happy client or customer, ask them to write your testimonial because it's something that other people are really interested in seeing, because now it's not me selling them, but it's rather the successes of my clients that's saying, hey, maybe Jeff has something to offer me.
Peer-to-peer marketing, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing on the website that I love, and we've spoken about this, of course, is on the media page, where you have the podcasts, you have blogs, you have other media events that I've been at, featured on. There was a PBS special news hour on the prison system, where they got me probably for 30 or 40 seconds in the background, which is pretty cool.
It's great.
Yeah.
No, and that just to give a shout out to your own content, then that is a wonderful compliment to our show on the prison system and that very outreach program, the clients and the customers. And so for me, looking at it just now, that really filled out some of the gaps and made me remember what you said about how you got involved in the program. And, as I mentioned earlier in this show, that community building is such an important part of what you advise and what you exemplify. So it becomes exciting for me to see, when I look at the media page, to see Jeff Miller Consulting Alliance honored for community service, et cetera, and talking about the mileposts.
Yeah, and talking about building community, I think it's important to kind of clarify some of that, because we spend a lot of time talking about it, but it's so much ingrained and intertwined with what I do with the business. I don't separate the two out. I just saw another clip of me in the media talking about the Corporate Volunteer Council of Montgomery County, in which I'm the president of the board this year.
Right.
And they interviewed me at the annual luncheon, and to me, it was as natural to talk about the CVC and the place that business plays in it and the bridges that we need to build, because by building community, you're building something healthier, you're building something sustainable, and any business needs health and sustainability in order to do what it is we do, and that's at the end of the day to make profit. Not to make money, but to make profit.
Right.
And along the way, what I always tell clients certainly is that, listen, the more profit you have, the more good you can do for your family and for whatever your causes are.
Absolutely.
So I think sometimes we make an artificial distinction between business, community, family. We kind of, all these things are in silos. They're in separate silos. And if you live a life that's meaningful, then you're not separating. You're not looking to balance things. You're just looking to integrate whoever you are into all aspects of your life, because it's a lot easier to exist that way without having to say, okay, well, now I'm putting on my dad's hat. Now I'm putting on my coach's hat. Now I'm putting on. Just be who you are.
Right.
And be mindful of who you are, and go through life consistently. It's a lot. It's a lot easier.
It's a little simpler.
Yeah.
I find it's hard to wear those hats because I just want to be me.
But lots of hats and one head.
Yeah.
So it's
Try wearing two. It's hard at the same time. But no, that's an interesting way of painting that picture, and I hadn't really thought of it because we all use the hat analogy. But you're right. Let's just be our person and try to exemplify that person as best you can and do the best job. And community building so much an important part. But that's what I love about when I look at your website and when we have our conversations, that it's deeply intertwined in what you're talking about and what you're doing. So I think that's part of what makes Jeff Miller different to me as a friend and as a client, is that part's so rich. As you know, I came from a background of some philanthropy work, and so it always fascinates me, how can we tie those two? Because I agree 100% with what you said. Business and community outreach, community building should be integral, should be totally related. And it seems odd to me when the occasional business tries to separate that so pronounced, and we can go on and on about that, but I completely agree and think it's just one of the most important parts that we do overlook. So you can go to Jeff Miller Consulting Alliance or jmconsultingalliance.com and see all of the stuff, including some beautiful pictures of Jeff and the video and the blog posts. But what are there? And there's a whole section in About Us on our philosophy, and that's when Jeff expands a little bit on building community. But you're right, the testimonials, every business talks about the power of the testimonial, and it's absolutely true. That's what's going to make you different from another consultant, is the nice things that people say.
The number one conversion rate, going back to sales, is a guarantee. Anytime you can guarantee your service, particularly if it's a money-back guarantee, that's number one conversion. Number two is testimonials.
I did not know either of those. Yeah,
as I said, it's third party.
Yeah,
people love to buy; they hate to be sold to.
That's so true.
So if I can have somebody else selling my services to you,
that's right. Really, native advertising. Native marketing.
Exactly. And again, not to. You can't overstate the importance of a guarantee as well. Yeah. I mean, my guarantee is after 3 months, if you come to me and say, "Look, Jeff, I just didn't get from it what I thought I would get," I'll write your check back for half the amount that you invested. I can't get my time back, but I can try to compensate you for yours.
Sure.
So I highly encourage, if you don't have a guarantee in your business,
throw some testimonials on there.
Let's talk about what we can do about that, because
I know
it's powerful.
In every business they talk about, the real estate business talks about testimonials and referrals. And do you get in your line of work, do referrals happen?
Oh, absolutely.
So they do. So that's very common as well. I mean,
I'd say 80 to 85% of all new business now comes
straight from past clients.
Past clients, other partners that I work with. But it's been referral based business now probably for the last 4 or 5 years, pretty consistently. And
that just underscores everything we've been saying.
Exactly, and it's important because everybody says they do business by referral. The challenge is that systematic? Do you have a system for that? How are you farming those referrals as opposed to just waiting for the phone to ring? Because that doesn't happen very often. So as I talk about in business, in most aspects of whatever your business is, it's important to have systems and processes in place, and the same is true for referrals. So I'm always curious to hear from folks, how are they systematically going about asking for referrals or getting referrals. And then the flip side of that is, if you want to get, it's always better to give first.
Absolutely.
So what are you giving as a business? Who are you referring business to?
Right. No, that's absolutely true. I have a tactic on LinkedIn real quickly. One of my gripes about LinkedIn is that they're always asking you to endorse somebody at the top of the page, and those are sort of meaningless to a certain extent. But I read a long blog post one day about it, and they said, don't worry about those, but every once in a while, write a 2-sentence testimonial referral, and those are at the bottom. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but they come in, and those are so powerful. You don't get those very often, and they're very powerful.
I find the endorsements rather annoying. I mean,
They are annoying.
I get endorsed all the time by people I don't know.
Exactly.
But if you go down to my recommendations,
Those are the juicy parts.
Those are those are where people are talking about me because they know me, they've experienced me, they've worked with me, or what.
It's just what we've been talking about.
And from a standpoint of LinkedIn, the best way to get a recommendation is to give one.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And when people ask me about it, I would say just try to ignore that box at the top because it's really just trying to suck you into the game of LinkedIn. Yeah. And if you just want to be a user, if you know somebody, I know Jeff Miller, and I really would like to do him a solid. I'm going to write him that 2 sentences about the pleasure it was working with him. That's so meaningful.
It can be a paragraph, Charlie.
Yeah, well, I'm not a writer. I'm a talker. But I'll get to work on that right away. So, well, Jeff, referrals and community outreach. You're involved in so many things. The MANA and the Maryland Works program. Did I say that right? And it seems to me you wouldn't have enough time to go out and beat the bushes for a lot of new business anyway, and you'd be working mostly on referrals and talking to people who get to know you through all the various works that you're doing.
As a very good realtor friend of mine says, Damian Buckley, Long and Foster, he says, I'm never too busy for your referral.
Wait, that's probably what's on the bottom of his email. I'm never too busy. I know that many agents who I sincerely value your referrals and and it's true. That's it's actually a great profession to draw analogies from because they're so interested in personal contact and testimonials.
Well, again, the thing about referrals is that it's zero acquisition cost. Mm-hmm. So if you understand what the lifetime value of a client is, and then any marketing campaign that you're running, there's a cost associated with it. There's a break even with it, but referrals, there's no acquisition cost.
Right.
And it's important to think about it in those terms. Not just that it's great to get a referral because it makes me feel good. It's how does it impact my bottom line as a business owner?
Sure. So. Well, let me dive real quickly then. Let me dive a little deeper into this. I know because I attended a seminar a few weeks ago about memory. He was talking about referrals at one point, and he said, what's the number one way to get a referral? And everybody said, I don't know. And then somebody raised their hand and said, ask. But what is, if you were advising the Charlie Burney Shoe Company, what would you say? Do I go back to my previous major clients once a year, or do I just create my own system, say, I really should contact Joe 4 times a year, send him a card or call him up on the phone? Is there any kind of very generic thing that you think of for past clients that we can drop as sort of an advice? Is it certainly once a year, I'm guessing?
Well, I think before you can answer that question, what you need to do, what you need to do is to rank your clients.
Ah, okay.
Whether they're former clients or past or current clients. Mm-hmm. Are they an A client? Are they a B client? Because are they a C client?
Right.
So once you get that understanding, then you begin to develop an individual plan for how you want to stay in touch with any specific client. Now, I'm fortunate in that my business, I don't have thousands of clients.
Right.
So it's more manageable for me. But I've got past clients that I stay in touch with once a year. I've got past clients that I have lunch with, once a quarter.
Yeah.
And then everything in between.
I'm sure that's the way. Yeah.
Asking for referrals is important. I don't ask for referrals. I ask for help. I'll say something sometimes like, Charlie, I really like working with you. Who else is like you that that you can introduce me to?
Nobody like me, Jeff.
Well, that's true. So
this is audio. You can't see the necktie. So
yeah, can't even describe it.
We better take a picture today.
Dog bones and something else, but it's important to understand.
Yeah.
If you've got a referral base. It's important that you go deep with who those contacts are, and don't treat it superficially as most people do. I've got referral partners, and whether they're financial advisors or CPAs or attorneys. I want to know what's important to them. I want to know what their goals are.
Sure.
I want to know what their family is like. I want to develop a relationship so it's not just about giving and getting, but there's really a depth and a texture to the relationship so that I am thinking about them and they are thinking about me because we like each other and we understand each other.
Yeah. Okay.
So work that system.
Well, I'm going to make an action statement then to you. I think next time you do lunch, you should go to Nando and have lunch, then come up here and have a guest with one of your A clients, have a guest on and talk about the work experience with Jeff Miller Consulting Alliance. It might be kind of fun.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
And I think we have one coming up
Is that right?
later this week.
Okay. Well, that's a perfect segue into it. Well, Jeff, I've got to go carve some pumpkins. It's time for me to get busy. So I think we're going to stop here. I hope everybody out there is having a good Halloween and a good fall so far. And we're getting ready at my house. I'm wearing my skeleton arm necktie today, much to the shock of Mr. Jeff Miller.
Well, and let me just say as we close, because tonight is the first night of the World Series. So let's go Mets.
Oh, let's go. I knew you were going to get that in. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jolly.